So Glenn, thank you for participating in our Dirty Troughs series.
Yes.
And the
you got to tell me about the name.
Yeah. So the basic concept is from Proverbs. Says that where no oxen are, the trough is clean, but much increase comes through the work
now
of
it makes
an ox.
perfect sense.
And so, and the idea, of course, is that productivity makes messes, and so we talked about doing a series where we talk to different people. We want to learn about the people, but we also want to learn about their work and kind of just and all of this course is from our Christian viewpoint, from our Christian worldview and understanding the world in light of the scriptures and what God has taught us, but just understanding that the messes are inevitable. And messes are indicative of productivity, and how do we work through those? And then what are some of the specific messes that you've encountered? Everybody's messes are different. If you have Mike Rowe has dirty jobs, those are really literal messes.
Well, that's what I thought of when you said dirty troughs.
Yeah. Most of ours are more metaphorical, but still messy.
Oh, come around. Yeah, so my name is Glenn. Are you going?
Yeah.
My name is Glen Ness, and I am more importantly married to Samantha, and we have 4 children: Madeline, Sophia, Duncan, and Theo. Madeline is going to be starting her senior year. She's 17. Sophia is 15, going into her 10th grade year. Duncan is 6th grade, 12. And Theo is going to be 10 here, going into 4th grade. So kind of a wide gamut. I work for Stifel Nicholas. I'm a financial advisor. I've been doing this. This is my 25th year.
Nice, you and me,
so
about the same.
I work in the Bellevue area. My office is in Bellevue, right there by Bell Square. And love the group of people I work with. Stifel Nicholas is an interesting outfit. We joined them in 2013, and prior to that I was with Reagan McKenzie, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I grew up in Seattle, right by Green Lake, and my parents still live in the same house that we grew up in, and yeah, it was a phenomenal place to grow up.
Yeah.
When we were growing up, the Bite of Seattle was at Green Lake.
Yeah, oh, really?
They had fireworks shows, like the 4th of July.
Yeah.
They had a fireworks show there. They had limited hydroplanes.
On Green Lake?
Yes.
Wow.
It was like the mecca for it still is a pretty cool place to live. But
so tell me a little bit about, you mentioned the name goes under a bunch of different, the profession goes under a bunch of different names. There's wealth managers, financial advisors. What do you call yourself?
Well, financial advisor is probably the best term, although a lot of times I tell people I'm a stockbroker.
Yeah.
Because we primarily deal in just buying stocks for people.
Yeah.
The predominance of our portfolios are individual stocks, and that kind of goes back to our value roots, which goes back to us being part of Reagan McKenzie.
Yeah.
So but financial advisor, we look at the entire balance sheet for people, but we're really day-to-day focused on managing clients' portfolios of individual stocks and then bonds.
Yeah.
And really, for the most part, use individual issues as opposed to funds. And the reason is because we want to control our inventory, number one, and 2, we want to keep fees low.
Yeah. So by not using mutual funds, you avoid that.
Yeah, what's called double dipping.
Yeah.
We're charging a fee for our services, and then the more we add in products that also charge a fee for management, it just means the client's paying a bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying in any way that they're not appropriate for people.
Right. Sure.
I'm just saying the rationale that we use.
And it's actually, to me, it feels honest.
Yeah,
It's
love
really the essence of what you do. Call it what it is.
Yeah. And there is so much value, Chris, to having a client that understands exactly what they have in their portfolio. They, just by osmosis, they start to learn. They start to learn how we work. And there's real ownership in the portfolio.
Yeah.
Because they see the names they own. and they know the rationale for why we own them, and they know how we work and the discipline that we use. So it really is. I love the transparency of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now, do you research stocks, or is that's you've got a team that
We've got a
does
team that does that.
Yeah.
So. Oh no.
Hopped over that one. So,
We'll see.
what do you specifically add in value if your team is the one that figures out, kind of what stocks? Where does your value add come?
So I pick which stocks we're going to buy. So like, there's a universe of what our group is recommending, although we have a kind of a chief equity strategist that really kind of keeps what we call our Reagan McKenzie kind of value recommended list.
Yeah.
And I try to stick pretty close to that. But it really is me making the decision as to which of those names we're buying for clients in their portfolios.
See a lot of balls here today, Glenn. We should buy stock in Bridgestone,
Not a bad.
the golf ball.
I think we've owned it in the past, Chris.
Have you?
I had a bad effect on you, Chris.
Oh, I should have brought my white ball. So, you mentioned how invested your clients get in the process, and apparently you like that. Seems like there'd be a lot of guys out there who want nothing to do with understanding individual stocks or why you're buying them, or just want you to say, hey, this is who I am, here's my money, just do good things with it, help me to be responsible with it. Do you have clients like that? And do you accept clients? Do you like clients like that?
Yeah, I love clients like that. So I'm not saying that I want clients to get all involved in the minutia, and I worry in initial kind of prospect meetings if a client has a difficulty with like giving up control, and also in kind of having strong opinions about how things should be invested. That's kind of a red flag.
Right.
And we're not trying to be all things to all people. So I only have one way of doing business.
Yeah.
I don't morph to like suit a client
Right.
that maybe isn't a good fit for us.
Right.
It's just going to cause heartache in the end. And that's taken time.
Right.
Obviously when you start out in business, you kind of have to, you have to be a little
Take
less
the cup.
selective.
Yeah.
But now I would say, I do things a certain way because I know that they work, and it's what it makes sense with who I am.
Yeah.
Values always resonated with me. It makes perfect sense how we invest.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that growth isn't a good way to invest. It's not to say that indexing isn't a good way. But I could never be those because I just value it's kind of like I could never do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as if I was in this field. So
Come around. You in or not?
in the bunker.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
How's
How's your game?
Huh?
How's your game?
My game's awful. But
It's hard to multitask.
we're not scoring, so
Yeah.
that's all right.
So Duncan is really what got me into the game in earnest. He, up until that point, I just played at like tournaments and things like that. But it was probably 6 or 7, and the golf club's like up to here on it. And but he just loved it. He loved the pace. We played 18 holes. He never was like, Dad, when is this over?
Yeah, yeah. That's
and
awesome.
it's just, and so he plays in the junior PGA here, and he won the tournament last year.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
great.
it wasn't a big one, but just that they can have success.
Yeah,
at it.
oh, yeah.
But anyway, we lived on the course, and so when Duncan got into golf, he kept going, Dad, why don't you just join the course?
Yeah.
Join the club. And I was like, you don't know the money that's involved.
Yeah.
It's worth it. We play a lot. We're on the course, and a lot of times when we play, it's just 6 holes. We'll hop out after dinner.
Yeah.
We'll hop onto I was
Yeah.
listening to Will Zalatoris, and he got second in the U.S. Open,
Yeah.
and he was like talking about how, just a week prior he'd missed a couple cuts. He was like, I could not. He was like, I was like losing my grip on the game, and then he was out, and it just something like
Just clicked and
clicked,
there
and then he
goes.
almost wins the U.S.
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah.
But I loved going to the range and just watching the guys warm up.
Yeah.
For guys like us, it's just so comforting. I mean, they have so many things that they're working on,
Yeah.
and I mean, they're at a different level, but it is such a tough game.
Yeah.
When I'm out there, like, perfect description of Snohomish is I was playing there the other day,
Yeah.
and a guy, like, he's in a wife beater tank top, tattoos everywhere, right, and jean shorts, that are, the shirt's tucked in to his jean shorts, and his, like, hooligan son, who's like 5 years old, looks like he's just, like, hasn't been washed in a few days.
He's right in the
He's
basket.
in the cage, and I'm like, yeah, we must get Snohomish.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I was like, they like to have a good time out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty chill.
It's definitely, I get the feeling that they are mostly Trump voters.
Yeah. I think probably so.
You ever read the book Thomas Sowell's Conflict of Visions?
No, I like Thomas Sowell.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So this is, I honestly refer to that book more than any book as I read through our newspapers and just think about like the political moment.
Yeah.
And he basically talks about there's two visions. There's the unconstrained vision, which is the liberal view, and it's kind of based on the idea that man is perfectible. They're always pointing to utopia,
Yeah.
and experts are going to lead us to this utopia. The expert class,
Right.
the few, like, in the Ivy League tower.
Right.
And it's just a perfect way to, and then the constrained vision, which is the conservative view, is no, man is sinful, at what we would call total depravity.
Yeah. Right.
And based on that, limited government and
Right. You don't want
the
Can't give too much
common
power to
sense
man. Yeah.
in the common man, it is much more to be valued than the expert class.
Have you read Total Truth? Nancy Pierce. I think are the kids still reading that?
I've read his
Yeah.
her How Shall We Now Live.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was before that.
Got it.
But I just finished that today, actually, and really enjoyed that book quite a bit. Just kind of just helps you understand kind of the worldview behind the thinking and how, even like in the founding of America and evangelical Christianity, sort of adopted that dual story version of the truth, where there's scientific truth, where everything's objective and real, and then there's the values that are up in that upper story, where it's just kind of what we tell ourselves to accept, that there's some kind of meaning in life that's not objective and real and verifiable. It's not really grounded in truth, but it helps us to cope with the lower story things. And so we've kind of accepted this dichotomy, and therefore, we lost the ability to speak truth about all of life, the origins and morality. Morality is regarded as something that's very subjective and not rooted in any sort of reality.
Yeah. No, I think I've even been thinking about it with regards to just how it's reported on this, overturning of Roe versus Wade,
Yeah.
which is really not a conservative, like, usurping power. It's basically conservative justices realizing that the Supreme Court is not the legislative body,
Right.
and turning it back
Right.
to the states. And
Right.
if the states want to legislate as opposed as I am to Roe versus Wade, that's the proper channel, and that's been the problem all along. I mean, there's multiple problems to Roe versus
Right.
Wade, but
Right. Problem
It-
is, life.
if
but
states,
yes, you're right.
if states want to do that and be, murderers, then that's the.
At least they're not violating,
It was how it was put in
They're
place.
still violating the Constitution, but they're not doing it in the way that Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Is it Sowell, S-O-W-E-L-L?
Thomas Sowell is Sowell. Yeah, conflict of visions. Phenomenal. We should get going, guys.
You have to look at that guy.
that book in like the 80s.
That's
And
right.
And it's like, I think it's the 80s, maybe later, but you would have thought he would have wrote it during the COVID era.
Hmm.
Wow, well done. Nice.
That was lucky.
Good chip, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's crazy the relevance of that same.
No,
same
I mean, and that,
conversation.
it's truth is truth no matter the era.
Right.
Well, that's the thing when you get people who can see beneath the issues.
Yeah, like Francis Schaeffer.
Yeah,
and,
into the foundation.
oh, yeah,
They
they're
never
such a gift to the church.
They never go out of date.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Well, have you been reading any Carl Truman stuff?
No, I never even heard of them.
Oh, so he's got a book called The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self.
Oh, okay, I've heard the book.
And it's
Heard of
got
the book.
he's now developed a primer, because the Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self is like 400 pages, and his primer on it is, I forget what it's called. It's a takeoff of Aldous Huxley's A Brave New World. It's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
along those lines. And
Beckham recommended that one to you on.
Oh,
Iron Age.
same
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent
keep
book.
going.
So, this is entitled Dirty Troughs, and as we talked about kind of at the beginning, it's just about finding out from different people, different industries, kind of where, what kind of messes you've encountered, and how your your Christian faith has manifested itself in working through those things, and obviously you're not sharing specifics about individuals, but just situational. Can you think
Yeah,
of
it's an
something that's
interesting
come up?
one. I mean, it's a good question. So I came to faith in Christ in 2004. So I had been in the business for 7 years, and when I got in the business, it was kind of a boiler room type business.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty hardcore business, and I was a pretty hardcore guy. I mean, I don't need to go through my testimony, but I quit drinking in 1999 after I got my second DWI, and that was really what God used to kind of start things working in my life that brought me back to Him. I'd been raised in a Christian home, but all that to say that my perspective on the business changed when I came to Christ.
Yeah.
And it was no longer about me and like getting ahead. It was now, how could I serve Him in the ministry, in the vocation that He's called me to, and do it the right way. And it's not that I hadn't done it the right way. I mean, I wasn't like a shyster,
Right.
but there's just things I look back on and I wouldn't do it that way. And really, honestly, I mean, part of why I'm a value guy is because I think it conforms to kind of storing up tortoise in the hare. I think there's biblical principles, behind what we do. I chafe when anybody says, stocks are gambling. It's not.
Right.
I mean, you're taking ownership in businesses that produce profits for people, and you're a part owner in that business.
Right.
You have to know the companies that you're buying. And if you're thinking about it from a 6-month perspective, it's gambling.
Right.
Like if somebody comes to me and says, I've got a couple years, can I put some money in the market? I say, it's not an appropriate time frame.
Right.
I mean, it could go well, but that's not an investment time frame.
Right.
So what I mean when I say value, it's so we look at the baseline for us is what is called the intrinsic value, or the book value of a business, and you can figure that out. It's basically all the different components of what a business in a liquidation would be worth, and then you take the number of shares that are outstanding, and you can assign a share price, which is called the book value or intrinsic value. And for us, that's kind of like the baseline that we're looking at. Like, what is this company worth? There's a lot of other factors that go into it. Price to earnings is another one that we something that's trading under its book value and it becomes interesting to us, or if it's over book value, it tells us a lot about whether or not we're going to get interested in that company. So when I say value, that's
Okay.
I mean it's a lot more than that, but that's essentially kind of the core. I was telling Chris earlier that I think part of it is just building trust with clients, and so in 2008, we had the most severe market crisis since 1929. I mean, banks had to be rescued in many cases. You had the TARP. I mean, at a certain point in time, the stock market stopped trading midday, not because of anything other than all the traders just stopped and watched the vote at the Senate whether or not the TARP package was going to pass. I mean, it was surreal. And that period of time, so I had clients obviously coming into that situation. We're getting phone calls all the time. Clients are, understandably upset. I remember the refrain over and over again. Glenn, I know you're going to tell me to stay in it, but I just don't know if I'm going to live long enough to get my money back. And I didn't have any good word. I said, look, we just have to stick with it. We're not going to panic sell here. That's the worst thing you can do. And I didn't lose a single client during that. I had one client that moved everything to bonds, cash, almost 9 days before the market bottom. I had talked to them over and over again, and they finally said, Glenn, we're going to stick with you, but we just want to move everything to cash. And I said, I've tried, and it's your money ultimately.
Boss. Yeah.
So we did, and it turned out, hindsight being 20/20, that was 9 days before. But within, I don't remember the time frame, but literally within a year, I think it was, super quick, clients that stayed in were made whole. I mean, the rally back from that, which again, nobody knows.
Right.
And so the messy part of it was, the whole crisis. But I'll tell you, almost all of those people that I went through that with are still with me today, because it's like we were like brothers in arms in World War II. It's like we've went to battle together, and there's a bond.
Yeah.
And so now when I say you got to just stay in there, we have some history. They trust me because of the difficulties, and because of that, they're much more willing to take my word for it than somebody else that might have a good word, but they haven't went through the same experience with them. So in 2008, things are horrible, and I'm just getting calls left and right, and really you're just coaching people off the jumping off the cliff type of thing all day long. And one of my friends from church, she emailed me and she said, I've just been thinking about you, and she wasn't even a client, and she just emailed me the lyrics to It Is Well With My Soul. And it was so meaningful. It's one of those things that I'll always remember. And I just remember during that period of time, again, I came to faith in 2004, this is 2008, like hymns would continually kind of go through my mind, and Bible verses. And it was such a comfort knowing that I was a Christian, that I was safe in Christ, because I didn't know where this thing was going.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like our clients. I mean, this thing could go to zero.
Right.
I mean, I don't know,
right?
But I knew I was safe in Christ. It was beautiful.
That's far.
Material, and all of that they didn't have. And like,
It was real.
I was like, this is going to be all right. I don't know how it's going to turn out in the markets.
Could go to zero, but I'm going to be all right.
That's going to be good.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Right at it.
Still too much, but about as good as you can do.
That
from
is a sweet
part.
shot. Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I always strive to do is be a man of my word. And like, if I say I'm going to like call you, I'm going to mark it down and I'm going to call you. If I say, hey, let's, next time we chat, let's grab lunch, I'm going to do that. It's the trying to just execute on what you can control, because there's so many things that you can't control.
Yeah.
And just, from that standpoint, just always doing what you say you're going to do. And that really helps build trust with clients. And then the other thing that comes to mind is I don't promise anything as far as the markets.
Right.
But again, if we can just do those kind of things, that's where trust is built. And just always telling the client honestly where we're at, not like sugarcoating it, not trying to explain it away. I always tell people I'm not in the sales business. It's a relationship business. Trust is not built in a moment. It's built over a long period of time, usually through difficulties. And it's kind of doing what you say you're going to do with clients, and being a man of your word, and doing it with integrity and not over-promising. So, the other thought that comes to mind, it's a little bit different, but I like keeping like a business plan that's simple and just having just a repeatable process. So I always talk with my assistant about we're not trying to be all things to all people, but we keep our business simple, and that means we have bandwidth to add clients if they make sense, but we're not trying to be all things to all people, and the process is simple. I can bolt people into my business and they would understand it within a few days. And I'm a simple guy. I like that simplicity. I think clients like that. We really, with our stock portfolios, we really control our inventory. We don't own a ton of stocks.
Yeah.
And it's the same principle. The more that you try to do, the less good you are at all those things.